finding those friends where I would kiss goodbye on the lips and I'm like, oh, but just some people, aren't built that way. And I think, it goes back to like being in tune with kind of just like my intuition or like energy. And even like when I will tell somebody something, knowing when to kind of just retract myself because I can tell that they're uncomfortable.
Right.
And it's not something that, maybe they have their own shit and they're just not really ready to come out.
Right.
And, and I think I've been pretty good as far as like getting people to actually open up and like talk about some of these things. And, I don't want to say be mad, but just be like,
right.
damn you, Danny, like you like got me to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, cool, man. Like we don't have to go on. And,
right.
So I think it's just finding that way of, of that awareness of just when you need to pull back and just stop it and then just kind of continue on and, what are some things you can joke about and, and just finding those moments where it makes sense to talk about, I guess.
Do you ever wonder, so you have a great podcast, you and Franco. What is his first name? Does he have a first name? You call him Franco.
Michael.
I feel like he needs to come here as well. Like I can't,
for sure,
not know you as well as I know you and not know this person who is like attached to at the hip to you.
We will definitely have to do that together for sure.
But you guys do a great podcast. I will say the first time I listened to it, I was like, two things. I was like, oh, this is like, just like my podcast, only at least you're specific about like, you're mostly speaking to people in a particular industry, which is the industry that you work in. And so it makes sense from a topical level. But also I'm like, you are like the dude version of me. I'm not, which I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing or whatever, but I feel like I can relate. And what I'm wondering is because of, like your podcast, Bar Theory, is more specific around the spirits industry. So people you're talking to are in the industry in one way or another, right? They're bar owners or people who work at bars or
either bartenders. I mean, it's distilleries.
People.
I mean, coffee, wine. I mean, some of those things, beer, we haven't touched base with. We're not so, we've been pretty fortunate as far as like sending somebody a text and be like, hey, you want to podcast on Monday and blah, blah, blah. And like them being able to be like, yeah. So we really don't have it planned out for like a whole month or anything like that. It's really just kind of
like got spreadsheets all the way out to March,
right? Which is probably, way better. I mean, honestly, I just, a couple of days ago, I actually was like writing down like my, instead of calling them goals, I put it like focus for 2020. And then like I wrote down a list of people that I really want to have on for next year. And already thinking about who to have for our 100th episode and like who.
Oh shit! How close are you to that?
We're not that close. I mean, we're like 30. I just put out 67.
Oh,
yeah.
So you like a double what I have basically.
So
nice job.
Yeah, thanks.
So what I was going to go with this is I don't know if because of the content, not that you're really specific about your content, but the people that you're speaking to. If you have opportunity, my guess is probably yes, because of this last episode that you just posted today or yesterday, right? But do you think about, I know that you specifically, Danny, are very, very mindful about making sure that when there's a podcast on, that the main focus is on the stories from the person that you're interviewing, which for us is a little bit different. It's more kind of happy hour conversation. But do you ever feel like you want to dig in deeper to some of your stories on those and you don't because, for any reason? Or do you feel... No,
I mean, I think it really just depends on the guest. I mean, because I think I have. And I mean, I think Franco and I both have opened up and discussed things. And, there might be some things where now we just kind of like joke about it. In other podcasts, because it has been said. But yeah, I mean, because there's been a lot of people as well that we don't really know. I mean, there's been a lot that Franco has never even met, and then he meets him there, and it's just like, how his mind works and how he goes. It's such a beautiful thing. It's almost like this child being put
sweet
in this store and being like, I don't know anything about any of this, and I'm going to go find out everything, and he's so intelligent that he knows how to just kind of like get in there. Because even with Moody, who we just did, it's like, never met him. Frank was super hungover, and I was like, well, let me just tell you, there's no better person than Moody to like help you feel better about your life and like lift your spirits. So just be ready. And he got into it. And I think it's the same thing, and then because we don't really try to dig in, even in their kind of personal lives. I mean, it's like whatever information, and so, everything is so organic, just like here. It's like, oh, you hear something and then you're like, oh, well, let me touch base on that. And blah, blah, blah. And that's why we get off tangents so much, and plus it's, it's like, I don't know. The beauty of it too is that him and I just click so well that we don't, nothing is planned, like I feel like maybe there are people out there that, have to write this shit out and they do this, maybe Laurel and Hardy do these things. Yeah. And it's like, it just fucks with your head too much because then you start thinking about that. And, because there's a lot of times I've always like, oh yeah, we want to touch base on this. And then we would like try to shorten it. And, now it's like, fuck it. Like most of these have been going 2 hours. Like, fuck it. Who cares? Because
I did just come to that conclusion as well. Like I went through I would say the first 6 months that I was doing this, I literally was just, I never intended for this to be a thing. I'm like, oh, it's Friday. Let's pull out a beer or a glass of wine and like talk on the radio because for whatever reason. So I had no strategy behind it. And then there was a moment where I was like, all right, I feel like I should like, I don't know, have outlines and make sure that I'm asking the right questions and it should be under a certain amount of time. And I tried that for like 3 or 4 weeks. I'm like, this blows.
It does, yeah.
And you can hear it on the other end. Like people will say, those are the worst episodes because it just, that's just not who I am.
Yeah,
it's,
you can tell
some
that
people
energy,
work in
for
those.
sure.
Yeah. So, but I had this moment last week actually on my podcast and this is where I felt really weird. So Friday I recorded, I told a story I had no intention of telling.
Yeah.
I just got caught up in the moment because I was interviewing this amazing woman who's a storyteller, and we were basically trying to see if I could tell this story under a certain period of time, which, by the way, I couldn't. Like, spoiler alert. Didn't really expect to tell this story. And Saturday, I listened to it, and before I listened to it, I was like, "Yeah, this might be the first episode I actually edit something out."
No doubt. Yeah.
And so I got myself all worked up about it. I ended up listening to it and leaving it, and it was fine. But really, it wasn't the actual story that freaked me out. It was the fact that this was a story that I never once alluded to, hinted to. And like, I'm pretty much an open book for the most part.
Yeah.
But this was an area that was off limits for me.
Yeah.
In all of my episodes. And I felt like,
that shouldn't even come out, apparently.
Well, it's that, but also like I had this feeling of like, people are going to hear this and be like, she's been a fraud this whole time. Like this story's been sitting there. It's really not even that impactful of a story, but it was a part of me that I wasn't willing to share. And then I did share, and I was thinking I felt good and it was fine and it's really not that big of a deal. But I was like, have I been like a total fraud this whole time? And so I just wonder like,
how did she respond? Or did she have anything to say or add?
No, it was like she didn't know one way or the other. It was really all in my head. Like probably there's nobody out there who really gives a shit that I told this story. And it was, I told it in a way that was kind of funny, and it was self-deprecating, and it was that, but it was more that like, I just, anyway, so I was like, do
you want to tell it again?
No, not really.
I can feel you reaching. Feel you digging in there, girl.
No, I'm pretty sure that was one and done.
Okay.
No, it was actually, to the bigger picture, was more kind of on this whole growth curve that I've been on recently, this kind of spiritual, like now I'm having I told you actually on a text, I was like, I had a falling out with the universe.
For sure.
But I guess the point is that I've been battling on this podcast thing is like, I don't ever want to take it too seriously because this is fun for me. And the fun part is not hearing my voice, but connecting with people that I either know really well or I've never met before. Like when you and I did with Griffo, I'd never met Jenny and Mike Griffo before. Right. So that was the first episode I was like, oh, wow, I'm talking to people I've never met before. And I loved every second of it because that's what I love to do.
Yeah.
I just wonder sometimes it's like, do I really need to not think about it, or should I be more responsible with, if I'm going to say I'm an open book, should I really be an open book?
No, but I think that just means, I mean, I think you can still be an open book, but it's not like you go around parading and just kind of like keep talking about your stories and stuff like that. It's just, it's in these moments, and I don't know, I've had some, it's almost like a time capsule when we do this, and like you're here and you have this discussion, and then all of a sudden you learn so much information about, the person that's sitting with you, and like even yourself, like for me, like with Franco, our guest, myself, and it feels like you're so connected in this little fucking bubble for however long you do it. And then, there's been a lot of times where it's like, dude, okay, like you turn it off, the mics, the headphones come off, the mics turn off. And then, I don't know, I've had these moments where it just seems like everybody is just almost like mentally exhausted. It's like now everybody like, okay, cool. Now, well, and then all of a sudden it's weird because like I've had a lot of these moments where it's like, then all of a sudden this fucking weird like small talk starts happening afterwards while you're like when we clean up and pack up and like, okay, cool. Yeah. I love you. Blah, blah, blah. And, some people will see, some people we don't. And, so it's just a interesting thing. And I don't know. I think just like enjoying and being in that moment, and like when we are podcasting and just like, oh man. And then I think later on, just taking it home with yourself and like how, and just go over everything and like, how did that impact you? And like, what did you gain from that? Because I don't know. Now it just seems like there's so much perspective out there. And I think for me, really, having heard a lot of people's stories, as far as like just going for it and like, oh, we did this and now we have this distillery, or, oh, like Phaedra's story and everybody's story, and it's just like,
oh God, I want to get her on the podcast.
For sure. Yeah, she should. She's amazing. But it's just like, man, like this has been like my struggle for so long, is like, I kind of know how I want my life to be. And I have like this fear inside of me, like, which is like, I'm trying to like overcome right now, and just like, fuck it, I got to go for it next year, and like, and take that leap of faith. And, so I always get super inspired by a lot of people who are just,
I feel it's like, I wonder if you do the same thing. I walk away, and it is very similar too. It's like kind of a little, sometimes this weird small talk thing, and then you say goodbye. And I always walk away from every podcast inspired by that person to do something.
For sure.
Most of the times it's like, I want to do something with them. This is my new thing. It's new in the last 4 years or something, but like I see somebody cool. I see, for example, you and Franco and what you're doing. I'm like, all I want to do is something with them. I don't have any history in the spirits industry. Right? But these two dudes are awesome. They've got great energy. They're doing fun stuff. And I just want to share that and contribute to that. And I do that with almost every guest that leaves here. It's like, oh, this is sure. Opened up. And, but there's also this danger of being like, I want to do all the things all the time. And, how do you, that's where you get where you and I think have been several moments. Yeah. And we're like, there's so many possibilities. There's so much interest in so many things. Yeah. I think you may even suffer from this more than I do, where you're so good at a lot of things. You have a lot of contacts. You have a lot of interests. And how do you choose what to do next, or what does that look like? Or are there things that can all like,
yeah, I mean, I think when I'm on a roll, but even after our last event, the agave roast, it was kind of, and then coming back from Mexico, with Puente, it was like, I was done, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to bartend. I didn't want to be on social media. I didn't want to do events, like, a lot of it was just really, I think, taking in a lot of the transition of like leaving Mario and John's and then kind of being out there and like getting into all these new gigs. And I think, my own frustrations with Good Time Bros and I was just done, and really just kind of like, I want to be out of this industry, which I still think I do, but I still think I have